Hello, this video presents a review of the winter weather event we had in southeast Georgia and interior northeast Florida on January 29th of 2014. I'm meteorologist Pete Wolf of the National Weather Service office in Jacksonville, Florida. This winter event featured a wintry mix of precipitation, primarily sleet mixing in with rain, although there were some reports of freezing rain and snow flurries across southeast Georgia and a few areas of northeast Florida. This photo was sent to us from the Coffee-Ben Hill County line, showing a light accumulation of sleet or ice pellets, generally on elevated surfaces and grassy surfaces. We had numerous reports, primarily of sleet, across southeast Georgia and some areas of northeast Florida as well. The sleet was more brief in nature and not accumulating in northeast Florida. There were also a few reports of ice accumulation and even a report of snow flurries up further north in south central Georgia. The image on the lower right shows temperatures early Wednesday morning, and the red dashed line reflects the freezing line, and you see it was generally to the north and west of the Jacksonville area and along and north of the I-10 corridor. North of this line is where we had the more significant reports of sleet and even a little bit of freezing rain. South of this line, the precipitation was mainly a cold rain, with a few brief occurrences of sleet mixed in. This wintry event was predicted pretty well a few days in advance. Here we see a forecast that was issued Saturday night, and you see the area highlighted for the wintry mix pretty well matches the area that was to the north of that red dashed line, where temperatures were expected to be cold enough for sleet and possibly freezing rain. Winter storm watches and warnings were issued for a good chunk of southeast Georgia as early as Monday afternoon, and it was refined by Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday night for warnings for all of southeast Georgia, with a winter storm watch for the I-10 corridor of northeast Florida. Why did we not have a more significant ice or snow event? We had air that generally was cold enough coming down towards our area, with high pressure coming down from the far north. However, this high spread due southward towards the southern plains, well to the west of our area. We tend to get much better setups for wintry precipitation in the southeast when we have high pressure centered further to the east over the mid-Atlantic region. That location really entrenches Arctic air to the east of the Appalachians and extending down towards northern Florida and southern Georgia, so that when we have moist air moving in from the Gulf of Mexico overspreading that air, we would tend to get snow or sleet. But with the high pressure organized and centered where it was, well to the west of us, the colder air was much more shallow. In fact, the sub-freezing air was primarily to the north of our area for most of this event. As a result, a good portion of the precipitation for our area was a cold rain. Here we have a radar animation of the event, and the green represents generally light rain over Florida and extreme southern Georgia, likely turning to snow as you get into central Georgia and central South Carolina. The yellow areas represent ice pellets or sleet that may be detected by the radar, and you'll see that in pockets over southern Georgia as well as the animation progresses. You also see a narrow band of precipitation on the far southern edge of it, possibly reflecting a frontal boundary, aloft anyway, reflecting colder air coming in from the northwest. So as the event progresses, you see pockets of yellow and orange reflecting sleet that's being detected at least aloft. Some of it was reported at the ground level across southern Georgia. Notice as we move along the development of a very narrow band of precipitation here, very well defined. This reflects a frontal feature that's actually several thousand feet above the ground, where the air is locally rising very intensely, producing this narrow band of heavier precipitation. The band eventually falls apart as precipitation continues to spread over the area. This was quite an interesting event. Twice a day, Weather Service offices send balloons up in the air to measure temperature, moisture, and wind, and to get profiles aloft of these conditions. These displays that are shown here reflect the change in temperature with height, which is the right line, and the change of moisture or dew point with height, which is the left line. Where the lines are close together, the atmosphere is moist, and where the lines are far apart, that layer is dry. The freezing line is represented by the red line shown here. So this image is from the balloon launch at Jacksonville early Wednesday morning. And what it shows are temperatures and dew points to the right of the red line, thus above freezing over a very deep layer, with very little of the atmosphere below freezing at low levels, and the result is a cold rain. As we look further to the north and to the west, as we look into interior parts of northeast Florida and the southern Georgia, we see conditions a little colder, especially down low where we have temperatures even below freezing just above the ground. The result is a mixture of rain and sleet. Fortunately, surface temperatures are just above freezing, preventing a more significant freezing rain event. Further to the north, as we get into central Georgia, into central South Carolina, it's even colder aloft, supporting primarily sleet and snow. So the type of precipitation you see is influenced both by the temperature at the surface as well as the depth of the melting layer aloft, the layer where temperatures are above freezing. Without that melting layer, snow aloft falls all the way to the ground, and what's observed at the ground is snow. When we develop a very shallow melting zone aloft, the snow partially melts and then refreezes into ice pellets or sleet, and sleet is observed. When we have very deep melting layers, which is most of the time in northeast Florida and southeast Georgia, the end result tends to be rain, unless the surface temperature is at or below freezing, in which case freezing rain can occur. For most of this event in our area, we had the right image with temperatures above freezing, so the result was rain, but occasionally mixed with sleet, especially the further north and west you go. For the latest weather information for events like this, turn to our website at weather.gov/JAX. This site provides an incredible amount of information, both in terms of observations and forecasts, radar imagery, even satellite images. On this website, there is a point-and-click map that not only shows watches and warnings in effect, but is a map that you can click on to get a forecast for your particular location. So go to weather.gov/JAX for the latest weather forecasts and observations. I'm meteorologist Pete Wolf. Thanks for viewing this video.